it was some advice given to me by one of my mentors early on, is that once you get the administrator exam, go ahead and get the platform app builder, advanced admin, and sales cloud consultant in rapid succession, because there's 50+% overlap with those. And I found that to be true. I was probably working with Salesforce for a year to a year and a half before I even took the admin exam. I didn't study for it. I just showed up, took it, went through it, checked my work, and was still done in about 45 minutes. And I passed it. So I thought, okay, cool. So I must have had enough real world experience that I've actually used this stuff, and I just know what the answer is because I know what the answer is. I don't need multiple choice. And then was it a few months later, I was able to go to the advanced admin course or something. I have this all in a spreadsheet because I'm a nerd, and I wanted to understand my Salesforce story. So what I did is I made like a series of dates, events, what happened on these dates, certifications, events, people, key people that I met along the way. And I was able to construct my Salesforce story. And then, because I'm a nerd, I also did, today minus date divided by 365 to figure out how many years ago that was. So now as I talk about these things, I can say, oh yeah, I went to my first Salesforce event X number of years ago and all that. Suffice it to say, that's overkill, but it's a fun exercise because a lot of times you don't realize how long ago something happened, or, oh yeah, there's that dinner that I had with Scott, the guy who recommended I take those exams so quickly. And I was, really? Are you sure? He said, yeah, there's a lot of overlap. And now that's what I recommend to everybody is take those exams as soon as you feel ready. You'll see on Trailhead, they got recommended years of experience or whatever. I think that's nonsense. I understand what they're trying to do. They don't want you to waste your money. They don't want you to waste your effort if you're not going to pass it. But if you can go through all of those different bullets and those requirements and say, yeah, I can do that. I know all about that with great confidence, then you're probably ready to take the exam. And if you fail, okay, you take that, you analyze your results, focus your energy on where you can make up the most points, take it again within a month or two, you probably pass that time. If you got a trusty, handy consultant at your disposal who you can talk to about all this different stuff, that's helpful as well. And then you'll pick things up from the doing on top of that. And then let's see, so I got the advanced admin, and then I was going to go to the original Salesforce training event, which was Salesforce Destination Success. There was one the prior year, but I couldn't go. The next one was in Las Vegas. Eventually that morphed into Trailhead DX, which then morphed into TDX, which then morphed into Trailblazer DX, which we still refer to as TDX. So there's a whole history there, but at the event in Las Vegas, I thought I signed up for the consultant track because I wanted to get into consulting. I was still in admin, but I wanted to get into consulting. So I thought having some consultant credentials would help. And then I thought, okay, to prepare for that, how about I target some exams the week prior? Well, if I'm going to start the week of Destination Success with the Sales Cloud piece, and Scott says that there's a lot of overlap between Sales Cloud, Advanced Admin, and Platform App Builder, then how about the prior week I do Advanced Admin and Platform App Builder? So the Friday before I was going to go to Las Vegas, this would have been in 2017. On a Friday afternoon, I went and I took the advanced admin exam. I got a coffee. I used the restroom. I went back and took the platform app builder exam and I passed that. And then the next week on Monday, I passed the Sales Cloud consultant exam. On Tuesday, I failed Service Cloud. On Wednesday, I passed Service Cloud. On Thursday, I passed Community Cloud, now Experience Cloud. And then on Friday, I took a shot at the Development Lifecycle and Deployment Designer certification and failed that by one question. I never retook it either. I should have because I was so close, but there was a bunch of stuff that I didn't know. I didn't have enough project experience at that point. And Now I could probably take that and pass without studying just because I've been doing projects for so long. And the development lifecycle and deployment designer exam is all about project methodologies and change management and all that kind of stuff, from what I remember. Although I haven't gotten a new certification since 2017 when I got the CPQ certification. Unless you count the Revenue Cloud Consultant Accredited Professional credential. I think I got all that right. I helped write that exam while I was at Salesforce, so it was fun to learn what it's like to make exam questions. Way more intense than you would think. Anyway, I thought that was a good place to start the call. So we're going to start there. One other thing that I want to talk about before we dive into any peanut butter or jelly stuff, there have been some rumor mill stuff happening about a new product in the Revenue Cloud space over the last little bit. It was put in the release notes. It was removed from the release notes. It was put back in the release notes. So now it's official. I see it. It's on my screen. I'm going to share it now, and we're going to talk about it because it's exciting stuff.
Ooh.
All right. Someone posted in the Revenue Cloud chatter group yesterday in the community about this new product called Revenue Lifecycle Management. And they asked what the difference was between Salesforce CPQ and Revenue Lifecycle Management. And my response to that question was essentially, it's too soon to tell. There's not a lot of publicly available information on it yet. There will be more coming in the near future based on people that I know sharing as much. They still won't tell me anything about it because they work for Salesforce and they can't tell me anything about it. But they do say that more will be known soon. And it's pretty cool. My thoughts on it will be as follows. And what I've understood the case to be is that Revenue Lifecycle Management, Salesforce CPQ and billing, and subscription management all fall under the umbrella of Salesforce Revenue Cloud. You could think of Revenue Cloud as a big bucket that contains products that help companies sell stuff and get money, specifically related to the quoting process, the billing process. In the case of subscription management, you have a lot of self-service functions that people will handle. You get headless billing in the mix here. You have revenue lifecycle management, which includes some new products and capabilities. And we can see the structure of that over here. I want to dive into that for a little bit today because there have been some questions on it. And to my knowledge, nobody has talked about this really publicly. So I'm going to do my own safe harbor and say I don't actually know shit about this and that we will all learn more in the near future, but I'm going to make some speculations based on what I see that is publicly available. And I can share some of that with everybody here as we go through the call. Let's start with the old faithful, Salesforce CPQ and Salesforce billing. This is where it all started. Started with Salesforce CPQ. This came from a Steelbrick CPQ acquisition by Salesforce for $360 million back in 2015. 2016 in February is when I got my first official Salesforce administrator job. And part of that job was implementing a whole stack: sales, service, communities, knowledge, CPQ, DocuSign, NetSuite. There was a whole bunch of stuff that was getting implemented. And I was the admin who owned the Salesforce org. Pro tip: if they won't give you more money in your salary negotiation, ask for an inflated title. The original role was Salesforce administrator. I wanted more money. They didn't want to give me more money. So I asked for senior Salesforce administrator, and they said, that's fine. So as the only Salesforce administrator, I was also the senior Salesforce administrator, which then helped me get a job as a senior consultant later because it looked really impressive. That, and I knew how to spell CPQ.
If I could even interject in that, titles are important. I've just learned that in the last like 3 years.
Hella
You know,
important. It's bullshit,
yeah,
but it's important.
yeah, because that's what sets you up for the next job.
And the next job.
And
I'm always trying to think, what's the next job? And what is the next job that will build a bridge between where I am now and my next job? I write about this in my manuscript, which I just need to start publishing as blog posts because otherwise no one's going to see this until like Salesforce will be a relic of the past by the time I publish at this point. Anyway, so Salesforce bought SteelBrick. They ended up buying some billing tool called Invoice It or something like this. That was Salesforce billing version 1.0. And then they scrapped it and they rebuilt it from the ground up. So the Salesforce billing that we know today is more of a 2.0 new version of that. So we got Salesforce CPQ, Salesforce billing. Both of them are managed packages that you install in your org on top of your base Salesforce platform and Sales Cloud stacks. Salesforce CPQ helps you handle the quoting piece and subscription management stuff, which is different than the subscription management product. We can talk about that later. And then the billing pieces for getting the money and the invoicing processes, invoicing, payments, revenue recognition, credits, debits, all that kind of stuff. All right. This, as far as I can tell, Salesforce CPQ and billing will still be sold. They're still actively selling Salesforce CPQ and billing. I've been involved in some deal cycles there. Customers are still evaluating this. I'm working with clients now that are actively implementing this particular product. Then the question happens, well, if there's a new product, what happens to this one? I have some theories. Number one is I think that Salesforce CPQ and Salesforce billing will remain products that are in use by customers for many years longer than Salesforce wants them to be. And the reason I think this is because implementing these products is difficult and complicated and therefore expensive. And a company who implemented CPQ and or billing does not want to re-implement those tools, hope ever in their minds, because they finished the project exhausted and they're just going, wow, that was a lot. Can we never do that again? And there would be a lot of resistance to, we just implemented this thing. Now you're telling me I got to do it again and implement this thing. And oh, by the way, buy more licenses. So just based on the way capitalism and supply and demand works, I personally, my opinion on the matter is that Salesforce CPQ and billing will remain available to customers for at least 3 to 5 years, probably longer. I mean, if we think about Salesforce purchased SteelBrick at the end of 2015, that was almost 10 years ago, right? It was 8 years ago-ish, which is crazy to think about that I've basically been doing this for that long. But if it took them that long and we're just now starting to get new products introduced or new ideas or new capabilities, it's probably going to be as long to fully replace CPQ and billing. And then you're going to have your big customers that are spending a whole bunch of money on these tools that are going to say, like, hell, you're going to get rid of this product. No, we're running our whole business on this. Good luck getting us off of it, etc. So that's my theory around Salesforce CPQ and billing and what's happening there. I suspect that what we've seen for the past several years, which is limited innovation, limited development on these, will probably continue. I think other than bug fixes and maybe a couple of, oh, let's piggyback off of this other part of the business that rolled something out, I don't think that we're going to see a lot of new stuff added to these products. Again, 100% my opinion, safe harbor, blah, 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 all that shit. But that's my theory there. Then we're going to have, let's talk about subscription management. Subscription management was rolled out. Salesforce CPQ came first, then billing came out, and then subscription management came out as this API-oriented subscription management platform. This is supposed to be really good for those self-service scenarios, for companies that primarily deal with subscriptions and they're not a manufacturer that's dealing with complex equipment and large machinery that's got a bunch of pieces and parts. It's just I sell licenses to access this tool and I need to manage those subscriptions. I'm not an expert at all in subscription management though, so I could be wrong about this, but that's my general take on it. If anybody has opinions or extra insights on that, let me know. But subscription management came out as an attempt to solve some additional problems that were not already solved by Salesforce CPQ. And now we have Revenue Lifecycle Management. Revenue Lifecycle Management is being positioned as a new end-to-end revenue solution built on the power of the Salesforce platform. Let's dig deeper, shall we? A new end-to-end revenue solution. I mean, I don't want to be too much of a curmudgeon, but end-to-end to me is everything from I sold the stuff to I got the money is in my account. That's one end to another end. I would even go so far as to say like lead to cash is the end-to-end solution. So we could get all technical and stuff. Semantics matter, but whatever. Okay. I call into question this word here, this 3-letter word called new. Some of this stuff is newer. I don't know how much of it is truly new. Near as I can tell, asset lifecycle is asset lifecycle management, which was the artist formerly known as customer asset lifecycle management. I guess when you rebrand a product, all you have to do is subtract words, and now it's a new product. So there we go. Einstein will soon be Ein. Then we've got quote to order capture. I don't really know what this is. Product configurator, price, Salesforce pricing. I think this stuff is coming mostly from the Salesforce industry side. You had Salesforce CPQ, aka Steelbrick, and then you had the acquisition of Velocity back in the day, which became Salesforce Industries, which had point solutions based on certain industries. Among those solutions were CPQ tools for telecom, for healthcare, for I don't know what their industry focuses are because that's been outside my wheelhouse. So even in the world of CPQ, as a CPQ guy, there are corners that I've yet to explore. It is a giant cave. Spelunk carefully, wear a hard hat. I believe these come from more that velocity side. And then you have product catalog management, which does seem to be more truly new. I think the idea here with product catalog management is to be able to better manage your product portfolio and try to connect the dots more between your product management team and what actually goes into Salesforce, which does need to happen. We have a new product. We want to sell it. What is the process? What is the configuration? How do we actually get that in the system and manage our products? Down here, we have new enhanced common features for industries. I think the word industries here is probably a key indicator that this is directly from the Velocity side of things. Omni Studio, that's one Velocity. Salesforce contracts looked like, when I saw demos at Dreamforce, to me, it looked like if you take a crawl, walk, run approach to contract lifecycle management, to me, Salesforce contracts looks like the walk. Quote templates is going to be your crawl. We just need some piece of paper to send to somebody to get a signature. Great. Quote templates in Salesforce CPQ. On the opposite end, we have complex contracts that need to go back and forth. There's lots of redlining. We need version control. We need term repositories, all this stuff. That's the other extreme where you need a true contract lifecycle management tool. Here, we're talking about things like Conga/Apttus. We're talking about DocuSign CLM. We're talking about other tools. And I see, at least right now, in its development, Salesforce contracts looks like, from my perspective, again, not a contract expert, but it looks to me like the walk of the crawl, walk, run. You got quote templates, you got fully baked CLM tools, and then you got Salesforce contracts, which is based on the Omni Studio stuff, which is Velocity stuff. So what we really have here with the new end-to-end revenue solution is that we have an amalgamation of capabilities across all of Salesforce's portfolio of products that relate to revenue lifecycle management. And so what we're doing is we're calling it a new product, but it seems, at least at first glance, as like a Frankenstein project. We grab a head from over here. We're going to grab some arms. Cool. We got a torso, got some legs. I mean no disrespect to the product management team. I know they work their asses off over there to try to get stuff done, but that's kind of my take on what this actually is. I will have a much better idea of that. We all will in the near future as more and more information becomes available. And I have yet to dive deep into these articles and really read about this stuff. So that's on my list of things to do. But then what does that mean for Salesforce CPQ and billing? Let's go back to our high level view. If we're talking about revenue management on the Salesforce platform, RevOps stuff, we've got these three big buckets, which I would consider even though CPQ and billing are two packages, I think of them as one thing. Because before it was called Salesforce Revenue Cloud, it was called Salesforce Quote to Cash. And that was the combination of CPQ and billing. And then you added subscription management, which is a distinct product. Fun fact, if you spin up a Salesforce dev org, it already has subscription management. Not a playground, but you go to the free dev org, subscription management is already in there if you wanted to mess around with it. And then you have revenue lifecycle management, which is not all core Salesforce platform stuff. It's got all that velocity stuff too, which I haven't touched and I don't know anything about. So I will probably say things that are just incorrect. So I'm going to put a big asterisk there. But to me, that means that deploying this stuff is going to get more complicated as well, which is great news for consulting firms because the more difficult and complicated things are, the more money we make as consultants. Yay. So what happens with Salesforce CPQ and billing now that Revenue Lifecycle Management is generally available, as we saw? To me, generally available means generally alpha release. So that's just one guy's opinion on the internet. Take it for what it's worth. But I don't think anything's going to happen from our side as Salesforce professionals for a little while. We got a few years because Salesforce is actively selling CPQ and billing. They're not stopping the attempts to sell this product. They're still pushing subscription management in certain use cases. Revenue lifecycle management is, I haven't personally been a part of any deal cycles where it's starting to be sold. Customers don't really even know it exists. Like I said at the beginning of the call, it was in the release notes and then it was removed from the release notes and then it was put back into the release notes. So it's still very, very fresh and even listed as the spring 24 release, not the winter 24 release. So that could be something. What does that mean for our careers over the long term? I think there will remain a need for Salesforce CPQ and billing revenue and billing expertise as administrators, architects, consultants for at least 5 years because of the reasons I mentioned earlier. Customers spend a lot of time, energy, and money in implementing this stuff. It's extremely difficult and complex to implement. They don't want to spend that time, energy, and money again. So they're going to push back and dig in their heels when Salesforce tells them, you got to switch over to this thing. And they're going to say, like, hell, we're going to switch over to that thing. I'm staying right here. Good luck getting me to move. There's going to be a lot of challenges there. So the old product will still need expertise. Don't worry. If you have CPQ and billing expertise, your skills are not wasted. They're still very relevant. Subscription management, I haven't personally seen enough of these use cases in the real world to know how much of an install base there is out there. I don't have expertise in this. I know people who do, but I don't know. Bill, do you have any insights on subscription management, how used it is or anything?
No, I didn't want to interrupt you, John.
I haven't seen a lot of stuff. It's available, but I personally haven't worked with a lot of customers that have done it. Revenue lifecycle management, I think that we should all be developing knowledge of and skills in revenue lifecycle management as it goes out, even if it's a Frankenstein product, because that's kind of what CPQ and billing ended up being, right? CPQ and billing, hell, you can configure the same product 2 halves to prorate in different amounts. Why? I don't know. Why you would do that when you prorate one at this way and prorate the other one in this way? That just leads to errors. I don't know. No one asked for my opinion, and I'm sure if they ever find this video on the internet, they're going to be upset enough with my opinions. But even if revenue lifecycle management is a Frankenstein product, the reality is that's the direction Salesforce is going. And if we want to stay in Salesforce and work in this type of a setup, we need to be aware of revenue lifecycle management. Will I personally get as deep in the weeds and technically knowledgeable about revenue lifecycle management as I did about CPQ and billing? Oh, hell no. My God. Trying to learn a new CPQ and billing tool at the same level of depth that I know the current one? No. But that's where, if we zoom way out and we think even beyond Salesforce, Big Machines was one of the first CPQ tools that was available and was eventually sold to Oracle and is now called Oracle CPQ. There's still a demand for those skills, even though that hasn't been the big player for years and years. Then it was Salesforce CPQ, same thing. There's still the need for Siebel CRM professionals out there, because there are some companies that probably still use it, even though Salesforce took over, because changing these products is so complicated, difficult, complicated, expensive, etc. So there's going to be 3 big buckets as far as I see it. We've got people who have expertise in the old way. They know those products. They're really good at those products. You got an easy 3 to 5 years where there's still going to be a high level of demand because there are 6,000 plus customers that have those tools, particularly CPQ. They're going to need support. They're going to need administrators. They're going to need architects, consultants, etc. Because their businesses are going to change. They're going to sell new things. They're going to deprecate things. So that need will be there. There's going to be a longer term need for revenue lifecycle management expertise. So I would say that 3 to 5 years from now, we'll probably start to see an increase in revenue lifecycle management expertise demand that will need skills. And then we're going to need people in the middle. That's the third bucket. The third bucket is going to be for the translators who can help businesses that say, we originally bought CPQ and billing. Revenue lifecycle management is now at a level of parity that we are happy with and content with to make the cut over. We'll need people who can help companies make that transition. It's the same thing as if they were going from Oracle CPQ to Salesforce CPQ, or from any tool A to any tool B. There's somebody that needs to be in the middle who can translate that, which is why it becomes imperative with any of these types of products and products that we implement to understand the business process that they support, to understand the functional areas that those exist in. If you start to understand the principles, it really doesn't matter what the tool is. Just like a CRM, it could be Oracle CRM, SAP CRM, Salesforce CRM, Pipedrive. I don't know, there's myriad CRM tools out there. It's all the same stuff. You're tracking accounts, you're tracking contacts, you're tracking deals, you're getting some leads in, maybe you're managing support cases. It's all the same shit. It's just a different tool. Now, different tools have different capabilities, different trade-offs, pros and cons, all that stuff. But if you understand that what matters is that I can track the humans that I work with at the businesses that I work with, and I'm trying to sell them this stuff. If you understand the big principles, then it doesn't really matter. The metaphor I use in my jiu-jitsu school is that if I wanted to break someone's foot, I could drop a kettlebell on it. I could drop a cinder block on it. I could drop a bottle of water on it. It really doesn't matter what the object is. A lot of times when we were learning things, we focus on the object, the specific tactical thing that is used to do the action. I want to break the foot, I drop a kettlebell on it. Or if it's a cartoon, an anvil, those usually work really well as well. You drop an anvil on the foot breaks. But what we should really focus on is the principle of gravity. how does gravity work? Because if you understand how gravity works, it doesn't really matter what tool you have at your disposal. It could be a coffee cup, it could be a cell phone. If you drop it from high enough, it'll hurt your foot real bad. So it's the same thing here. If we understand the principles behind how companies sell stuff, get money, and make that process more effective and efficient, there are thousands of ways to achieve those ends. And the tool at that point becomes a detail. Any questions on that? I know that was a rant, but I thought it was important to discuss, especially since there's so little about it. And I thought, hey, why not take this opportunity while people are frantically scouring the internet, searching for what the hell is revenue lifecycle management, that I can leverage this news and ride this wave and try to get some eyeballs for my own business. Shameless self-promotion, but hey, it's the internet. Any questions on that? Any thoughts? Feel free to disagree with me if anybody has other opinions.
Looking at the revenue lifecycle management, it feels like there's a lot of stuff in here, like a lot of the same terms that are in the CPQ and the billing stuff.
Yep.
If they're trying to attempt to merge them together, or like one will become the other eventually. Like it looks very similar as I dive into like reading about it.
Yeah, there is probably a lot of overlap. I mean, Salesforce CPQ does pricing. This does pricing. This is a configurator. This is a configurator. And when I was at Dreamforce, they had some screenshots of what some of this stuff looks like. Building those pricing and configuration things in whatever revenue lifecycle management is visually looks more like flow. Whereas with CPQ and billing, as we saw with the past few sessions working on the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, that it's a lot of building records and all of this. And yeah, you're still building records, but the UI is very different. From what I understand so far, there's a lot more flexibility in calculation of prices, which is going to cut in both directions. Because if you think about everything as a continuum of freedom and control, or flexibility and control, whatever words you want to use, those are opposites. And on the one extreme, you have a very rigid structure. Let's say opportunity products. Let's say all your business has is opportunity products. Well, the only thing you can really do is list pricing. You got the price times the quantity gets you the total. The total rolls up to your opportunity amount, and that's it. Any sort of volume-based or this, that, and the other thing, or discount, advanced discounting, advanced configurations, you really can't do that if all you have is Sales Cloud, because you have a flat product. You have a flat product structure by design. That flat product structure, that rigidity serves as a firm foundation for all the fancy stuff we can do with CPQ. But if you don't have CPQ, then you're at this end of the continuum where you have a very rigid structure. That can also be good for the same reasons, because if I want to limit what my sellers are able to do in the system, then having rigidity is very useful. At the same time, most companies want some sort of flexibility, but if you give them supreme flexibility, you end up with these spreadsheets that we see as CPQ consultants, where this spreadsheet is on version 73. Someone's been building it out for the last 25 years. It's a file saved on their desktop. No one except the person who made that Excel file knows how the damn thing works. And the entire company uses that spreadsheet to build out their quotes. Anybody else seen these scenarios? Yeah, exactly. Very, very common. Excel is an extremely flexible and powerful tool. One of the biggest competitors to Salesforce CPQ is Excel, because customers have it and they go, why would I spend all this money on licenses? I got this spreadsheet and the spreadsheet works just fine. So total freedom, total control. We start to get towards a middle ground when we have a configurable tool, when we can say that these two products cannot be or must be sold together, when we can start to package things up into bundles, when we can start to price based on the specific product or maybe a combination of products. We can discount in the same type of way. We start to end up more towards the middle, and we end up in that I don't know, 50-50 freedom and control. I tend to skew when I'm designing and architecting solutions for clients. I tend to skew more towards the control side. I'm a totalitarian dictator, and it expresses itself in my Salesforce configurations. So you're not going to do anything I don't let you do, but we will also want to create a positive experience for the user. If they don't feel like they have any control in their job, that's not a good feeling. We've all been there. I have no control. This sucks. I hate my job. So we got to give enough flexibility to the user so that they feel empowered to make decisions, that they can find the right combination of things to sell to their customer. But we still want to pump the brakes every now and then to make sure that they don't go too far one way or the other, like bumper bowling, essentially. We're all bumper bowling experts. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thanks, Forrest.
All right, let's go into the office hours org, and we will resume the building of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'll continue to comment on revenue lifecycle management as I learn more things, and I could be completely wrong about all of this stuff, which is why I stole from Salesforce and did a safe harbor statement, because I really don't know anything, because I don't work for Salesforce and I'm not privy to all the secret sauce that's going on behind the scenes. I hope that it's at least easier to administer than Salesforce CPQ, because wrestling with this tool is frustrating as hell. And it's just, why is it like that? I don't know, because no one thought to make this easy for the person who's actually going to build it. But it's one of the downsides, I think, of this whole culture in software. Build as fast as you can, no matter what, and leave no documentation. The most important thing is to have working software. Well, the software kind of works, and it would probably work better if you had documented, something about how it works. Anyway, let's go into CPQ. I'll do a brief overview of what we started last week, so anybody who hasn't been here can catch up. We're working on building a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The long story short is I started a business. We sell peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. When I first started the business, we didn't have CPQ, so I just had to make a product record for every single variant of peanut butter sandwich that could possibly be sold. I had a different one for white bread and wheat bread and all this other stuff, and we had a lot of combinations. So through a rigorous process that involved a lot of conflicting opinions internally in my business, we distilled our product set down into 7 so far. 7 products. Those products are going to then be sold together. In last week's episode, I showed on a quote how when I do not have a CPQ tool, oh, damn it, I forgot to update these buttons. I hate these buttons. So you got to remove all of them. Please, someone log an idea. Maybe it'll get rolled out in 30 years to have a button that removes all the buttons so I can just add what I want. If ever I Google something and I see that it's in ideas.salesforce.com, I just know it's never going to get done. All right. Anyway, I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I added my products individually, but then if I wanted to sell, say, 5 sandwiches, I sell 5 sandwiches, but now I got to go through it. I got to say, well, that's going to mean, oh, wait, that was the peanut butter. Okay, so I'm going to move this line up, and now I got 5 sandwiches, and then I've got 5 scoops of jelly, and I need, 10 slices of bread. This is a pain in the ass. The things are not grouped together. If I change the quantity of sandwiches, why can't I just change all this stuff? Well, that's where we started to get into configuring our products. And I have all these different products to sell, but we're going to start moving in a direction where the only thing I'm going to see on the screen is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, because when I select it, I'm going to end up in the configuration screen. And now I'm going to start dealing with a more sophisticated data model to help understand how these products are going to get sold. If I reconfigure, we will see that inside the peanut butter peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I have only one piece of bread available. For the rest of today, I'm going to build out the rest of this bundle so that we have a more a more complete structure of what I can sell, and then that will set up the rest of this. I also need to submit a ticket to get the expiration date extended on this particular instance, because I'm going to stretch this peanut butter and jelly sandwich out for weeks, and it's going to get ridiculous in terms of the examples. Just wait until I start adding support and memberships for peanut butter and jelly sandwich related stuff. It's ridiculous, but ridiculous is memorable. All right. That's where we're going to get today. But to get there, I'm going to go back to my product. Looking at my products, one of the things that I want to do is get all of these products grouped together. And if you remember from last week, I need to make a bundle. And a bundle is a group of products that are sold together. Right now, I have created three features. Well, I created three, but then Salesforce was being stupid and wasn't letting me actually use the feature that I had. Let me do a quick check here and get rid of the one that I didn't want. Is this the one? I think. I think that was the bread. This one. That was the first one. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of this one today. There was some weird, probably lightning related caching issue thing that drove me nuts last week, but I ended up creating one product option. We have three different categories of products that we're selling inside this bundle. We call those product features in CPQ: bread, butter, jelly. I then started associating the ingredient with the sandwich itself. In this case, I'm associating white bread with the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I want to tie that to the bread feature. That's what it will result in, a visual where we see bread, butter, jelly. The user is going to be able to pick those. There are different ways that we can arrange this visually in the screen to make it to configure in different ways or follow a specific process, but this is what where we're gonna start. Faye, I saw you come off mute.
Yes, can I ask you a question regarding under the type? Now, under the type, you click on it, there's three different picklist component related product and accessories, right?
Yes.
How do you know which one to select?
I love this question. This is a fantastic question. I'm so glad you asked. I didn't even have to hypothetically ask it and then say, I'm glad you asked. The type field is often misunderstood. And I want to start by limiting, like taking out all of the things that it is not and focusing on what it specifically relates to. The product option type field is all about quantity. Specifically, it's about the quantity of the optional SKU, in this case, the ingredient white bread, as it relates to the configured SKU, shown here as peanut butter and jelly sandwich. In other words, how does the quantity of the white bread get affected by the quantity of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich? We have three choices here. I have component, accessory, and related product. And I even have, let me pull it up in another screen and bring it in here. I have this in a folder in Dropbox, which I can share in the, I guess, show notes if we want to get all podcasty about this. But I made a tool for myself to make it easier to understand what this stuff does. And here it is. Let's zoom in to make this a little bit easier to see. How is that? That look good? All right. We have three screens in CPQ. We click Add Products and we go to the product selection screen. In this screen, I'm selecting products that I want to sell. We then select our peanut butter jelly sandwich bundle, and we go to the configure product screen, which is where we're configuring our bundles. And in this screen, I'm seeing my product features, my product options, etc. And then we go to our quote line editor. The quote line editor is where the calculation sequence runs, where we apply discounts, things like this, where all the pricing magic happens. And then we save the results. And now we're able to generate a quote document from the data we just created. The type field on the product option is relevant in only two places. It's relevant in the configure product screen when I'm configuring the bundles. That's our wrench icon. And it's used in the quote line editor when I'm adjusting quote lines and things like this. And again, the product option type field is specific to the quantity of the child of the bundle. In this case, the ingredients of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The component, accessory, related product values are all relevant in the configure product screen, but they mean different things. The related product value is relevant in both the configure product and quote line editor screens. I'm going to talk about this in order: component, accessory, and related product. And on that continuum of freedom and control. If we have total control on this side, we can think of that as the most restrictive sort of option or choice that we can make, and that's the component. The component tells CPQ, the component value tells CPQ that the quantity of this product option for the white bread is proportionate to the parent. What that means is that when I establish a quantity for the white bread, it will follow the quantity of the parent proportionally. Looking at the product option, I have a quantity of 2. That means for every peanut butter and jelly sandwich I sell, I will get quantity 2 for white bread. If I sell 10 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I can expect quantity 20 for white bread. If I have 100, I can expect 200. If this number is changed by me as the administrator, or if I say the quantity is editable and the user changes it during configuration, they can do that, but then it locks it in. It's still going to remain proportionate. It's going to follow the parent wherever it goes. If I have an accessory, then it's an independent quantity from the parent. The parent could have a quantity of 10 or 100 or 1, and the child could be whatever. Doesn't matter. It's an independent quantity. The key distinction then between the accessory and the related product is where you can change that quantity. If my product option type is accessory, the only place that CPQ will allow me to change the quantity is when I am in that configuration screen. Returning now to my quote. I got to fix those buttons. I will, let's see here. What am I going to do? Let's ungroup. Oh, come on. You got to be faster than that. Oh, I forgot to turn on. Okay. We're going to make some changes in the manage package, maybe in the next episode. Once I select my peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I want to fix this configuration too. Oh, there's so much we could talk about with just a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. All right. Right now it shows a little lock icon, and that is because my quantity editable value is false on the product option record. But if it was true, I could change the quantity here. But when I save it and I go back to the quote line editor, I would see that the value is locked. Can't see it right now. I haven't fully configured this. I'll show more in just a bit. But if it is a related product, I can change the quantity, if editable, in the configure product screen or the quote line editor screen. If it's an accessory, I can change it in configuration, but not when I've saved it and I've gone to the quote line editor screen where I'm going to price and discount. Why does that matter? Who cares, right? Well, it matters because in these two different screens, I'm looking at completely different records. In this screen, I'm looking at the quote line object. That's what each of these lines is. It's a quote line. In this screen, I'm looking at product options. The reason this is so important as an administrator is that if I have a product option that is a related product and I have business rules built around that, I must ensure that those business rules work both in configuration and in the quote line editor. Let's say that when I select product A, I have to make sure that somewhere product B is selected. Well, if I make a product rule, which we'll discuss later, that automatically selects product B when product A is selected, well, then I will also have to add some sort of custom logic over here that does the same thing. This is where we start to run into some system limitations with the CPQ product. It's difficult to add or remove products in this screen based on that sort of business logic. When in doubt, I try to keep my product options as either components or accessories. And then the question is just, is it proportionate or is it independent in terms of its relationship to the parent quantity? If it is proportionate, then I'll use component. If it's independent, then I'll use an accessory. It is rare, at least for my designs, that I will use a related product because it could potentially explode the amount of work that has to be done, the amount of things that have to be built, because I will always have to make sure that the business logic is a total match here and here. It's a similar reason why if you're going to use, say, a contract lifecycle management tool, I would not use the quote template function in CPQ. I would make a far simpler version of like a document using that CLM tool, because I would rather manage one product, DocuSign CLM or Conga CLM or whatever, than to manage the quote template and this other tool. And oh, by the way, the quote template is highly limited and it hasn't been updated since 2015 when the damn product was acquired by Salesforce. Near as I can tell, the functionality has been the same for 8 years. It's not going to get any better. So those trying to manage two different things and make a match and no. So there, for many reasons, and I could ramble on and on as you can imagine, I don't go with this. I try to restrict that for cases where it's truly, it does whatever it wants. It doesn't really matter. There's no real business logic built around it. It's just, it's extra stuff we don't want to worry about. It also then forces a behavior that the user just gets used to going back into configuration when they want to change the quantities. If they don't know you can do it another way, then they assume this is the only way you can do it. Yeah, go ahead.
I have this question regarding the related product. Are you saying that if it's in a bundle and we choose the type as related product, if the customer can actually select this product, it can actually change in quantity, just individually? Is that what you're getting?
Yes, if the quantity editable value on the product option record that we're configuring is set to true. Let me show you.
Sure, thanks.
When I'm configuring this, in this particular case, let's think about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I want to buy a sandwich. It's going to have 2 pieces of bread. It's never going to have one unless you wanted to start selling open-faced PB&Js. I'm not opposed. Do what you want. It's your business. Or you sell 3 pieces of bread with each sandwich, which is how I go. It's like a Big Mac PB&J. You get twice as much of the really good stuff, but only 50% more carbs. Yeah. So for our business, we're just saying 1 sandwich, 2 pieces of bread. That's how it works. That's our business logic. That's what product management came up with. That's how we're doing it. Because that's our business rule, I've decided that the quantity editable is going to be false for this particular product. So then the user can't change it. They'll see a little lock thing. They can't change it, etc. Now, if it was a related product, this is where it starts to get weird, because if it's a related product and the quantity is not editable on this option, then when I'm configuring, well, I still can't change the quantity, even though it's a related product. But I got to watch out, because if I go into the quote line editor screen and the product record is marked as quantity editable, I think I might be able to change that. I don't know. I have to double check. A friend of mine came up with this matrix of all the combinations that you can have between quantity editable on the product, quantity editable on the product option, the types, and then what the expected behavior is for all of those different scenarios. And since there are 2 quantity editable types with 2 values, that's 4 plus 3 potential outcomes here. That's 12. So there's at least 12 combinations that can happen, and there's probably some other nuances that I'm forgetting about right now. Does that help?
I think it'd be more helpful if you can actually show us a use case that what you're talking about. I mean, from my understanding, I get what you're saying, like component is basically pair off of the parent,
Mhm.
whatever you set, correct?
Yes.
And as for the accessories, it's basically independent, which I'm kind of a bit lost. Like, are you talking about independent as in it's not in a bundle, but it's in a
Mm,
bundle?
mm. I'm talking about that the what I'm talking it is part of the bundle because what makes a product part of a bundle is the direct tie to the parent from the child via a product option. The data architecture itself, the object model, is what makes something a bundle. The type is specifically related to what you are able to or not able to do with a field value and how that field value for quantity behaves in different circumstances. And as you said, I think building it out and actually showing it is going to be more useful to me talking abstractly about it. So to segue, let's go ahead and use some clones here. Let's get the rest of this bundle built here in the next couple of minutes. I don't have anything. If you got to drop, feel free. I'm just going to keep building for a little bit and add some more stuff. We've got our white bread. We've got wheat bread. The number here is going to be 20. That's what our 20 is. We number in increments of 10 just in case we need to sneak something in between two. We don't have to renumber the whole thing. I'm going to create my jelly next, or peanut butter next. And for that, we're going to add butter. For each feature, we're going to start the numbering over again at 10. I want 1 scoop of butter. Quantity editable, still false. Maybe we'll let them add more scoops later if they want, but for now, we're just doing this. Component, because for every peanut butter jelly sandwich that I sell, I know that I'm going to need the same number of scoops. I'll clone this one. This is going to be for, oh, wait, I made a mistake. This is going to be crunchy peanut butter, my mistake. And now I'm going to do creamy peanut butter.
When you say false in terms of quantity addable,
Mm-hmm.
you mean by it's not addable or
Correct.
is it?
Yeah. Can I edit the quantity? Yes or no, true or false?
Okay.
Yeah. The field would be easier, I think, to configure if the label was is quantity editable or
Correct.
is the quantity editable? Yes. But
In this case, it is without check marks. Is that editable or not editable?
it's confusing. Yes, there are a lot of instances like that where it's wait, it's not this. Oh, what? And it gets weird. All right, so now I have the butter and then the jelly. Jelly, strawberry. We're starting the numbering over again because new feature, new numbering. Save. And finally, we will clone this. And I have grape jelly. Grape jelly. 2. Save. Let's check our work. Going back to the quote. Edit the lines. Let's get rid of this. I don't need this group. Yes. Ungroup. Add products. Select my peanut butter jelly sandwich. And we're going to change this around because I want to go from selection right into configuration. I don't want to click that button again. I also don't like that button on the right side, so we're going to move it to the left side. Now we have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich bundle. We can see that we have 3 product features as children to the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We have 6 product options for all of the different ingredients of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We see the quantities for those different products, and that all quantities are locked because quantity editable is false. The quantity is not editable. We see product codes, product names, descriptions are all the same because I cloned the same product. We can change those later. That's the least of my concerns right now. Unit price, we're going to worry about that later. I made everything $1. We'll talk about that later. But from here, I can select white bread, crunchy peanut butter, strawberry jelly, save. And now I have a bundle configured in CPQ. It's hard to tell that it's a bundle because it's all just a list of products that looks very similar to what I had before. I will save my work right now. I'm going to make a couple of UI changes, and then I'll refresh my screen so you can see what it's doing. And then this will help show. It's documented in the Salesforce documentation, but I always find, at least for me and my learning style, if I see it done, it's way more tangible. All right. I'll go to the installed packages and find Salesforce CPQ, which is pretty easy because it's the only thing I have in here. Once I configure this, there's a tab along the top that is essentially the junk drawer of Salesforce CPQ. It's got all the extra stuff. I want to walk through real quick some core settings that I do in most of my implementations. It's the same basic thing each time that I do it, and I will show what some of that stuff does. Probably on a future call. I don't need to bore you with that right now. The main thing that I want is to, where the hell is it? Oh, there it is. Line editor. That's what I wanted. All right. Here's the quote line editor. I don't like these buttons over here. Best practice is to have those on the left-hand side. Why they're not on the left-hand side by default, I don't know. Nobody asked for my opinion. But on the line editor tab of the CPQ package in the setup, I'm going to go to Actions, Column Placement, and click left, then click Save. All right. Now when I refresh my screen, those buttons are going to be on the other side, which makes it a little easier, in my opinion, for the user. They see, there's my buttons. They're all right here. And if you have a whole lot of fields, they don't have to scroll all the way to the end just to reconfigure what they want to reconfigure. They can do it right from here. It's hard to tell that this is a bundle. You can tell because there's a wrench, but you really can't see the structure. So one of the things I like to turn on as well is to visualize the product hierarchy. When I save that, that will show the product name here as an indented list. Now I see that the peanut butter and jelly sandwich contains these 3 ingredients. I think you can minimize that by turning on some other setting. Other things I might want to change. No, I don't care. Enable multi-line delete. If I have a whole bunch of products, I want the ability to select the top column. It selects everything and then I can delete. If I save this, boom, refresh again, look right here. And now I see that I can, if I had, I'll clone this bundle. If I had this, I could select this up at the top and delete all of the lines here. And then that is pretty much all I care about right now. Some other changes while I'm back here. Rather than storing documents generated with CPQ in the user's personal documents folder, I will store them in a folder that's got more access. I'll use the quotes one that's installed as part of the CPQ package. I like the full page preview. We'll get to that later. It just looks better. The attachment target, rather than having the document floating in the ether, I'm going to attach this to the quote, which also attaches it to the opportunity. So when I'm looking at those records, I can see any PDFs that were generated. I'm not going to worry about posting to feed or chat or stuff or multi-language translations. We can get that later. I already talked about line editor. We're not going to have plugins. Anything else that I want in here? I know that somebody had asked a question about usage-based products. Here I'm thinking of, I'm going to add a product that's like a soda and then it's 50 cents for a refill or something. I think that would be a good use case. I don't care about any of that. I don't care about any of these things right now. That's probably good for now. A couple other changes I'm going to make before we end the call. When I click the Add Products button, I see all these different ingredients, but I don't want to sell standalone ingredients anymore. I want to freedom and control. I want to control more of what the user is going to be able to do. Unless it's a 2-year-old, they don't want just a big glob of peanut butter in their hand. So we're going to limit the products that show in this screen to only the peanut butter and jelly sandwich product. It's pretty easy to do. You go to products. I'm going to update my view. Fun fact, Andrew, you can update this view. That's an inside joke.
All right, guys, I have to drop. I'll see you
Okay.
next session.
We'll see you next
Bye.
time. Bye. The checkbox in question is called components. All right. I will select all of these with the exception of this one, and I'm going to say that component is true, update all 6 products, apply, save. Now, when I say add products, I've got only one to choose from. This is a super convenient thing. Some scenarios where this comes in handy is, let's say we've deprecated a product, we don't want to sell it anymore, but for whatever reason, it still needs to remain an active product in the system. We just don't want it on any net new deals. Or sometimes a customer has a product, it's a subscription, it's already part of the renewal process. If you have it, we'll grandfather you in, you can keep going with the same product version, but we don't want to do any net new sales of it. Component is another good option there as far as configurations, because you can hide it from net new sales, but it can still show up on a renewal because it's still an active product. It's part of these subscriptions on contracts, all that kind of stuff. The other thing that I'm going to change, if you remember, when I selected my peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I skipped configuration and I went right into the quote line editor without selecting any bundles. But we want to eliminate the possibility that a rep would save this without configuring it. So I'm going to go to my peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I'm going to make an update to 2 fields in the Salesforce CPQ configuration section. Configuration type, I will say allowed and always. This means that when I select the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I will be allowed to configure it, and I can configure it after it's already been added to the quote. There are a couple of other choices there, but I can talk about those some other time.
Can you skip the configuration and allow somebody to go back to configuration?
Yes, which was what it originally did. It skipped
Okay.
the configuration, and then I could click the wrench and go back to configuration. This is for, if you remember some of our scenarios where 80-20, right? 80% of the time it's sold the same way, but I still want the user to have the option of going back and tweaking it a little if they want to. That's a really good scenario for that. Most of the time they sell it the same way, but every now and then they want to make some adjustments. That's a good one because it saves a couple clicks and it still gives them choice.
Yeah. There might be one to do that with. So that could be good.
Some other things that we'll talk about is pre-selecting in the next call, but for now, this is probably good. We got a $14 peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This is ridiculous. And to answer Faye's question, hopefully she's able to watch this later. This is where that component comes in. When I change this quantity to 10 and I click calculate, the quantities of the children are updated automatically. If I have 100, it will remain proportionate in quantity. even though I, as the user, cannot edit these quantities, the system is editing the quantities based on the initial input of the number of sandwiches I want. And with that, I will save and end today's call. Any questions before I close up shop? Oh, I see some chat things. Oh, I didn't even notice that people were putting things in the chat.
Oh, just a little bit. We were chatting a little bit about.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I see what's up.
but we appreciate everything you do. You're a master at this.
I'm not the best. I'm not the best. I'm probably the best teacher of this, but I'm not the best architect of this. But I know the best architects of this, which is nice. Then when I get stuck, I could reach out to my super secret Slack group and say, hey, how the hell does this thing work? So anyway, all right, guys, I will talk to you soon, and have a good weekend.